In 2017, 2018, 45 million people got the flu in America, according to Centers for Disease Control and Prevention figures. 61,000 died. Where was the hysteria then?
Just remember, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about almost no cases in the United States. And now that we're testing for it and watching the spread as it's unfolding, those numbers are going up astronomically. 3 weeks ago, Italy was just living life just fine. Now they're literally in a virtual shutdown in the northern parts of Italy. And that's the challenge with an infectious disease like this. It can spread very quickly, and it also can affect people.
For 30 years, I've been warning people in my books and in every other way I can, that this world is controlled by a cult. It's a cult that has no borders. It operates in all the, at least major countries, and in fact, all the countries in the end, and in particular in those countries that dictate the direction of the world, where you covertly create a problem, you use the unquestioning, pathetic mainstream media to tell the public the version of the problem you want them to believe. And you're looking at stage 2, the reaction, for fear, that's the currency of control, outrage, whatever the problem is, and either a demand from the public that something must be done, or at least an acceptance from the public that things need to change because of the problem. And at that point, those who created the problem got that reaction openly in changes in society, offer the solutions to the problems they have themselves covertly created. And those changes, step by step, take us further and further to that Hunger Games society. Obviously, there is a strain of this coronavirus, because there are many coronaviruses, which appears to be different. But if you look in terms of the danger is to a certain section of society. Do you know, mainstream doctors, I watched an interview with one in America only 2 or 3 days ago, and they're saying, well, just to put into context, 80% of people that are diagnosed with coronavirus have, and this is his quote, very mild symptoms.
I think maybe to put this into modern terms, because this is something we think of often when we think of pre-antibiotic days, the old-time medicine. We have an employee at our Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota, and she has a dear friend who lives in Milan, Italy, and she works at a hospital there, and she texted this to this employee of ours last night. And this was an email that came out yesterday from one of their physicians in Milan, at the largest hospital there. He said, I just got a very disturbing message from a cardiologist at one of the Milan's largest hospitals. They're deciding who they have to let die. They aren't screening the staff anymore because they need all hands on deck, and they have very small areas of the hospital dedicated to non-COVID patients, where they still screen doctors. Everybody else is dedicated to COVID patients, so even if they're positive, meaning that they're sick, but they don't have a severe cough or fever, then they have to work. He says that they're seeing an alarming number of cases in the 40-something age range, and these are horrible cases. So we need to stop thinking that this is only an old person's disease.
The ones that are in danger, and by the way, in danger from any virus, including the classic flu, are those that have compromised immune systems. And they are old people, elderly people, and they are people with what is termed pre-existing health problems. Why? The pre-existing health problems are putting so much pressure on the immune system, it's already weak when it's hit with this. This is why someone like that will have potentially a serious situation, and someone with an immune system in working order of any level will just swat it away. Have we not learned yet to take what the authorities tell us with a pinch of salt until it's proved otherwise? 96% plus of those who have been tested for coronavirus in South Korea were negative. And she said, and our testing results in America show about the same.
And that's one of the things that's challenging here is you and I might get exposed to somebody who is totally asymptomatic, no symptoms. That virus would appear, well, that's not a very strong virus. But in fact, when it infects us, it could kill us. So we've seen cases of fatal disease that were exposed to people that had minor symptoms themselves.
Most of the time, if they ever told the truth, they would genetically implode from the shock. So I question everything. And if it stands up, it stands up. But I don't just take it because somebody in a suit has told me to believe it. And what we're seeing now, every day, is this Hunger Games society coming closer and closer and closer because of what's being done in the name of protecting the people.
That's the primary risk factor for dying, is being old, and then having certain underlying health problems. For example, in China, those men over the age of 70 who also smoked, 8 to 10% of them died. 65% of older Chinese men smoke. The case fatality rate, or the percentage of people who die in women in that same age group, was only about 2%. In that case, very few women smoke. Now, the challenge we have is that that's the Chinese data, but there are a series of risk factors that we worry about that, if they overlay on this disease, are going to cause bad outcomes. And we happen to be right at ground zero for one of the major ones here in this country, and that's obesity. We know that obesity is just like smoking in terms of its ability to really cause severe life-threatening disease, and 45% of our population today over the age of 45 in this country are obese or severely obese, and it's men and women. So one of the concerns we have is we're going to see more of these, what I guess I would call very serious and life-threatening cases occur in our country because of a different set of risk factors than we saw in China.
We are being asked to believe now that this system cares about old people. We must protect the old people. We must destroy the world economy to protect the old people. Oh, these would be the old people, would they, that have paid in their entire life through taxation and other means, and at the end, in their final years, they get handed a pittance of a pension which gives them the choice between being warm or being hungry. There was a whole area of this simulation where they're discussing how they control information. And they're saying, how do we deal with the anti-vaxxers? How do we make sure that the official narrative of the pandemic is the one that's dominating the internet and all these lines of communication, and not what they call conspiracy theories, putting another point of view. You look at all the solutions to climate change, and again and again and again, they are exactly the same solutions and consequences as with the coronavirus. What did Prince Charles say at Davos only a matter of 2 months or so ago? He said by 2030, this year that keeps coming up all over the place from all directions, we need a new global economic system, economic order to meet the challenge of climate change. What have I been writing for 30 years? This cult wants to transform the world economic order into this technocratic, AI-controlled tyranny.
We are not prepared at all in the sense. I wrote the book, Deadliest Enemies, that was published in 2017.
Right.
Thank
here,
you.
ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Go get it.
No,
Read it.
and
Panic.
In chapter 13, the title of the chapter was SARS and MERS, a harbinger of things to come. We predicted this. And then I wrote a chapter on there what a flu pandemic would look like if it emerged in China. And if you read it, it's exactly what's happened. The supply chains went down, China locked down the country, it spread to other countries, people all pointed fingers. And, it's the kind of thing where we hear it, but we don't get prepared. And we're going to have the next 3 months or more, 6 months or more, that are going to be like this. And so far this thing has been unfolding exactly as we predicted it. We and our center put out a piece on January 20th and said this is going to spread worldwide.